Hello everyone, welcome to our Let's Play series of Disco Elysium. This is Colonel RPG as usual, and I'm very happy that you're chose to join me today as I help illuminate the dice making enterprise that it takes place in this area. We're probably not helping at all with this. We should look at these details. They're all hand drawn. No, I'm not sure they are hand drawn actually. I mean, some of them are hand drawn, but I think there's Do you see how alialized? Anti-aliasing. Aliased? Yeah, you know what I mean? You see how aliased that is? I think that is the correct term. I think there is a mixture of 3D and painting in this engine. Or maybe there isn't. Maybe it's just 2D shaders. One over the other. Yeah, that probably would work, since there's no perspective. Even if there were perspective, you probably would be able to fake something. When I say perspective, I don't mean perspective. I mean, actually, I do mean perspective. I mean, sort of like depth of field, where like things that are further, like farther away, get tinier, and things that are closer to you get bigger. That doesn't happen in this game because look for example, that canister doesn't change size when we move the camera, and naturally when we go further that way, it gets closer to us, and we go further this way, it gets farther away, but it doesn't change the size. So, the apparent size rather. So it doesn't have perspective. The engine doesn't. But anyway, we were talking to our novelty dice maker, and we will continue talking because. Oh, it's you again. Are you looking for a die? I'm not yet. Although I would love to know about that. I've heard this place is cursed. Did you know that people call it the doomed commercial area? I mean, the game... Do the people do that, or is it just the game? Because the game likes giving cute nicknames to things. I'm not sure. She says, I've heard the stories. She nods as the wind howls in the furnace shaft above. But I don't think those stories are true. Wait. What stories are we talking about here? I was gonna say, wait, it's not true that people, that the companies went under, because I think that's the point. That's the stories. But our character is completely clued into the whole conversation here because the question is a false question. How do you explain what happened to all these companies then? Which is a false question because, of course, it's the whole Occam's razor. There's a lot of easier assumptions to make and fewer assumptions to make when about companies going under than it being... Oh, actually, I wonder if that's metatextual as well. I wonder if that's... Ooh, that'd be really interesting. You know, how, these people, the companies here went under because of, just market conditions, really. There is a tendency for people to sort of blame or try to blame preternatural explanations, or use preternatural explanations to... I say preternatural, that's not the word though, because if you say supernatural, that's a specific thing. But anything what's the word? Like, for example, I don't know, 9/11 truthers, for example, that tendency to sort of want to explain the very complex set of conditions into a tidy little package that it was the U.S. government that did it. That's a simple well, it's not necessarily simple, but it's a tidy package that explains a very complicated event, the whole 9/11 attacks on the towers. But it's not that it's not natural, the whole the U.S. government did it thing. It is a natural explanation, but it is still sort of, it requires a lot of assumptions, and that is what I'm saying here. It is easier to blame things that are a little bit more tangible and to name what I have named already and what the game has named already, than to blame the invisible hand of the market. Because I think that's why the companies went under. Just to answer that question over there, let's see. Oh yeah, Plaisance was the one who sent me. She's convinced that the place is swarming with malicious energy, and also that is the reason why we shouted at these things. That's the whole reason why we're here in the first place. It was Plaisance, and she says, Plaisance, the bookshop lady. She raises her brows. I've heard that her business is doing rather well. Have the energies spared her somehow? Actually, I don't know. I don't know that it is doing rather well. It can't be doing rather well because she has her kid outside working for her, so evidently she's not rich enough to, not have to resort to child labor, and also to not have to have a kid freezing outside, but that's a whole nother matter, I suppose. Let's see, actually the bookstore isn't doing that well. Yeah, that is my interpretation. The curse is just biding its time, or I don't know why the bookstore hasn't gone bankrupt yet. That's what I'm here to investigate. I mean, she has all those bric-bracs that, if we want our character to go with the supernatural explanations, then I suppose that would be an interesting thing to point to and just be like, she doesn't go under because she's got the papers and whatever the things are that protect her from the bad things. I'm gonna say the first one, though. Actually, the bookstore isn't doing that well. There are hardly any customers, and she has to exploit her own daughter to keep the company going. All right, she says, but it's not just the bookstore that's still up and running. What about the whirling in rags? Some people say it's part of the building complex. Well, you say it's part of the building complex. That's the first time I heard it, actually. Although there is a certain... It was built... I wonder what it means to be part of the same building complex. I don't know what that is. Is it connected underground? Because I think if it is connected underground or above ground, I suppose, with towers, or not towers, bridges, then I suppose it would be part of the same building complex. But not technically the same building? Does that make sense? Yeah, my university, or rather, I say university. What do you call... Interesting. English has different words for different things than Portuguese. We call university the whole campus here in Portugal. Like, if you go to the Porto University, you like, it's a whole campus, and it's got, the engineering area. I'm gonna call it area for right now, but it's got the engineering area. It's got the biology area, the sciences. It's called just sciences. Then the specific medical part of the university. And we just call those little parts, or those little areas, we call them faculties, or what would translate as faculty, but it doesn't really, or at least it's really awkward if I want to translate it into faculties, because it's a different word. It's the word for faculty, it's not correct in English, and I don't know how that works, because as far as I know, in English, the campus, while it does have different buildings, it's, universities tend to not be seen as the I might be mistaken. Feel free to correct me in the comments. But is it the case that universities elsewhere are like only focused on specific areas rather than like the MIT, for example, the Massachusetts what is the IT stand for? Information technology. It's not it, but anyway, that big one. That's specifically engineering, and it's the university, sure, but it's like, you're not going to call it, you're not going to find biology, you're not going to find history, or you're not going to find journalism just all there together, or are you? I don't know. It's just, anyway, the point is, I didn't go to a university I went to a specific building, specific sort of campus, in the whole campus of the university. And that particular building, or group of buildings rather, was all connected with little bridges inside, and it was pretty cool. It is an interesting thing. I took archaeology, so that you can figure it's humanities. And if you want to look it up, it's easy to find the university that I went to. Again, not university. The university is the Porto one, but the specific building is the one that I'm referring to. So I feel that would be part of the same building complex. If it's not connected, underground or above ground, I don't think it is. No, the whirling isn't doing well either. Its waitress just took off, and customers have trouble paying bills. And then there's me, she sighs, looking at her messy work table. All kinds of tools lie there scattered, from knives to carving files, not flies, to wire cutters. I've been here for 14 years, selling novelty dice to role-playing enthusiasts. No, not exactly a million real business idea, yet somehow I have survived despite the talk of malicious energies. Strange, isn't it? Maybe it's just, our drama says, maybe it's just because she's so talented that she's able to woo the curse. Or she is the curse, which is what Plaisance thinks is the case. Yeah, that's immediately the first. I'm on a roll today on saying the things that the game is going to say, or can say, because I talk before reading the options. It's because you're competent and dedicated to your craft. The curse doesn't affect people like you. Yeah, that's why people go under, is because they're competent. Nobody incompetent has ever gone under. That is just unheard of. We learned that in preschool. That is the reality of the world. The curse will, although the fact that this is an option is also metatextual, and anyway. The curse will get you. I have no doubt about it, is an option. It just doesn't care about earthly time frames. It just died. It's sooner or later. Spoken like a true pseudoscientist. I'll be the first to admit there are many inconsistencies in this so-called curse. I'm gonna say that, yeah. I was just about to ask. She leans forward in her chair to study your face. What do you think? Do you think the curse is real? Our Inland Empire says, time has come to face the source. Fear not, for the forces of the universe are supporting you in this psychic quest. I am stepping away from our Inland Empire in so many cases. I feel a little bit awkward about having chosen it as my main skill at the beginning of the game. But I will squander my main skill because Inland Empire is a little bit kooky. Let's see, I think it's because you... Okay, that's one option. I'm starting to see that there's no curse, only business decisions and natural market fluctuations. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Honestly, I'm still not sure. This world is a puzzling place. I'm gonna go with the market fluctuations, which I thought it was fluctuations. But it doesn't make sense that it would be in English, because this comes from flux. In Portuguese, it's full. Actually, does it come from flux? Or float? I don't know. Anyway, it's written different in Portuguese, and I don't know how to, because it's fluctuation. It's just weird. Anyway, she says, exactly. She pinches the root of her nose. Truth is always so disappointingly mundane and boring. It's what I was saying before. Our task has been updated. Oh, interesting. About investigate the doomed commercial area. Now we need to go back to Plaisance and teach her in basic neoliberalism or something. I don't know. I suppose not necessarily, you know, I don't want to turn her into a neoliberalist, because she probably already is. I just want to tell her about how it is, so she can have her own educated critique, maybe, about the, or I say critique, but really, she can stay neoliberal if she wants. I say more of a understanding of the system, I suppose. But which is what my character is trying to be. A person who understands the system. I don't know that he is that. But anyway, she says, but I'm glad we got this sorted out. Anything else I can help you with today? Our drama says that's all she has to say on the subject. She's been thorough and truthful as far as we can see. We can see being drama because it's plural. The suggestion says, Plaisance is not going to like what you have to tell her. She is not. But we do have Shivers over here. Very low quality. Well, no, not low quality. Very high check. Very low chance. Let's see if I can put on some clothes so I don't shiver as much. Where's my shiver pants? That sounds awful. We have a plus Shivers over here. Okay, so we are already having a tough time, or tougher time, of bringing our chances up. So I can switch that. Yes, perfect. So at least I know the first ones. I've given up, by the way, trying to sort these. It's impossible to sort through them. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Oh, my physical instrument! Not my physical instrument. Okay. That's another shiver. So we have 3 shivers. That's pretty good. And I think I might even have more down here. How about over here? No, that'll be interact. That'll be this. No. Yeah, I don't think I have any more shivers to have. Okay. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to be successful. It just means that I might need to spend some of my skill points. So right now we have our t-shirt that says Shivers because a sprawling saga. It's the man of I can't pronounce that. It's got too many consonants stuck together. We have our scented scarf because of springtime cold. That doesn't sound right. I don't like it. And the patrol cloak over here because know thy neighborhood. The RCM? Yeah. Well, I suppose that's fair enough. Let's save the game here. Let's check our skills. See where our Shivers can get us. 4. Well, I'm gonna try. I might make a fool of myself, but I'm gonna try. Ooh, 17 is not too shabby. I just need to roll a 6. Because the other... yeah, that's basically, I need to roll a 6. Everything else... no, that's not how it works. It is the same chance as wanting to roll a 6, or any one number anyway, in a 1d6 throw. It is the same chance, but it doesn't work quite the same in a 2d6. Let's see where we go with that. Ooh, I've been so lucky recently with my dice throw, except for that one that I was super unlucky and I save scummed, and I feel no regret. Our Shiver says, a gust of cold air sweeps through the chimney. The stones and minerals on the shelves rattle as though agitated. For a moment, it almost feels as though you're outside the building, exposed to the atmosphere. Ooh, that is indeed the description of Shivers and how it works. So I rolled exactly what I needed, actually. I got it just right. I had to roll a 10 on a 2d6, which is a 70. Yeah, that's interesting. There's probably people who know exactly the percentage chances just off the top of their heads about, you wouldn't think that, rolling because you're rolling from a 2 to a 12, and if you roll a D11, I suppose, and add a 1, the chances of rolling a 10 are 3 out of 10, out of 11, which is a lot more than 17%. I think it's like 25? Was it more than 25? Yeah, it is more. It's like 30% even, or closer to 30%. So because you're rolling 2 dice, the chances just work so differently, and it's sort of amazing to see. I really like seeing the chances pointed out, because it's cool. I like this sort of stuff. We read that. This is still just a theory. I mean, hypotheses. But hear me out. I think I know why your business hasn't failed. Let's see if we know, indeed. It's only one option, so I suppose our character does know. She says, didn't we already talk about this? She asks, as the wind continues to seep in through the cracks in the old chimney. It's because you're not in the same building as the others. This isn't technically the doomed commercial area. In an episode that I started out talking about technicalities of what is the building and what isn't. I suppose that becomes very relevant all of a sudden. I don't know what technical means in this case. She says, what are you talking about? Which is the correct answer. Shaking her head, she says that, my address is exactly the same. Rue de Saint-Guillaume. Guillaume? I can never know how to pronounce that. 10. Without a comma in between, which confuses me tremendously. What if your street name has a number in it? Because, for example, if you want to give it the date of like, I'm sure there's you must have, in English specifically, we're talking about English specifically, must have, like, the 4th of July. Oh, yeah, even then, you'd be like, the street of 4th of, no, the street comes after, though. That's how you, if it's an avenue and if it's a street or whatever it is, it comes after the name of the street, technically. Unless you have a fancy street that can be named anything. Technically, a street can be named anything. It doesn't have to be the, Saint Guillaume Street, which is what that means. By the way, rue just means street. And that's where Rao comes from, by the way, the word in English, as far as I'm aware. But Rao in French, which is, that word is French. I don't know how you'd call it. If I had to guess, quille. Quille is how I would say it in French. Let me know in the comments if I'm right or not. I don't speak French anymore. It has been many years. I'm very old. Our Shiver says, no, the old coal plant that used to be here was subsumed into the new venture. Its ruins swallowed up, yet it has a different address in the heart of the city. I'm going to say, no, this used to be a coal plant. I'm going to touch the safety curtains that are, I don't know what they are. They could be that, and the name of the game is just giving them funny names. You're in a chimney of another building. Oh, that's such a cool thing. That is so cool. I don't know why it's cool, but it's super cool. I don't know. I know why it's cool. I love this sort of stuff. It's archaeology, isn't it? It's like, just the remains of things, and it's awesome. But it's such a fantastic thing. It's a chimney that's attached to a building, but it is still the chimney of another building on account of other things that were relocated. This was an old chimney, I suppose. That is the reason. Oh, that's beautiful. And this sort of stuff does happen. Chimneys tend to be brought down, though, unless they're actively maintained. They're pretty tricky to be maintained, but sometimes they are actively maintained. But they're brought down if they're not in use because they're hazards. It's tricky. She says, "That doesn't make any sense." She looks around in the makeshift nest that she has carved out for herself, bewildered. "Are you saying my business was spared because of a technicality? Where is this coming from?" she says. Or that. I don't know what you mean, but maybe that. It has a different address in the heart of the city. Wait, what is this one? I'm just using logic. It's windy in here. No, this is the reason. The address thing. And what does it mean that I'm safe from failure? Our inland empire says, "Don't let her become complacent," because that's not what he means. Because don't let her do that, because that is not what she means. She's assuming a different thing. Still, she still needs to ward her soul against evil forces. Actually, it's only your workshop that's protected. You should still do something to defend your person. Let's go with that. She starts laughing, her fingers trying to rub away the exhaustion in her face. "What? Do you know what this is?" She raises her hand to reveal a piece of metal shining on her index finger. I would say it's that thing that I don't know the name anymore. I don't know the name even in Portuguese. The thing that you sewing, like a little cap for your finger so you can sew without hurting yourself. It's usually made out of shiny metal. And it shows up in Pathologic if you've ever played Pathologic, and if you haven't, you definitely should, especially the second one. But yeah, I don't remember the name. It's got a thing, a lucky charm, some kind of award. Although I don't know why she would have that for dice, for sewing. It looks like a regular piece of jewelry to me. That could be. I don't know what it looks like. That's the thing. It's just a piece of metal shining on her index finger. I don't know what that means. Although if that thing is on the thing for sewing is used on the thumb rather than index finger. Although I suppose you can use it in any finger. Let's go with the jewelry bit. "It's a mourning ring," she says. "I made this when my first company failed. It was a small jewelry shop right here in the East Delta Commerce Center, built with the little I inherited from my parents. I drove it to the ground within a year. I didn't have what you would call a viable business plan." "A jewelry shop you didn't? I wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that everybody here is super poor, and you are selling... It's not even a commodity, let alone commodities for the rich. It's not even a commodity in the first place. Although it's not that you can sell non-commodities to poor people or poor parts of the town. Why are you telling me this?" "It wasn't just a jewelry shop either," she says. "I always thought that it was just the world, that you were supposed to try again and again until you finally succeeded. And now you're telling me, what?" She closes her eyes. "That it was all because I didn't run my little shops and ventures from a dump inside an abandoned chimney?" The viable business plan is pretty important. I was going to say you'd be surprised at the amount of people who start businesses without a viable business plan. But then again, maybe you wouldn't be surprised. And maybe you know exactly what I'm talking about. Or maybe you would. And please don't start a business without a viable business plan. Like, seriously? It's like there's so many people that do that, and it's just... It's weird. It's super weird. And sometimes they succeed, which is the thing. But then again, you can play the lottery and sometimes succeed. It doesn't mean you should play the lottery. And you shouldn't, by the way. You're just wasting money. Let's see. No, you're telling me. Yeah. So, don't call it a dump. You've made it nice and cozy here. She has. This is awesome. And also, those things are... I know what those are. What those plants are. I'm sorry, I didn't know what to say. It's Entropy. I'm just throwing names out there. It's definitely not Entropy. I don't know what they mean by this entropy. That's how not entropy it is. Entropy is just transfer of energy and how different things want to be in a state of equilibrium. So if you have hot water next to cold water, the water is all going to homogenize in terms of temperature. That's entropy right there. Also, how you know how you can feel if water is cold or warm? That's entropy as well. If the water had no entropy, you wouldn't feel temperature. That's how temperature is. Temperature, well, I say temperature, but you don't feel temperature, you feel entropy. That's the thing. That's why it's confusing. Well, it's not confusing, it's just super simple, but it's also phenomenally interesting that, at least I find it super interesting, that what we cannot feel temperature, we can always only feel heat transfer, and I love it. The coincidence is all that safeguards us. That's not a safeguard. Coincidence is not a safeguard. It's the opposite. It's like how you're safeguarded by coincidence. Just, throw yourself down a mountain. You might survive, so you're safeguarded. That's not coincidence. That's not safeguard, I mean. My god. I'm gonna go with this one, because it's the better option. She says, yeah. She stares out the window, not really hearing your words. Or maybe it's the entire world that's cursed. That's what I was saying from the beginning. It's the invisible hand of the market. Although, it also is people that are fooled by the system in thinking that all they need to do is be competent. This episode is circling back on itself so much, and I love it, because I said that throwaway comment about how nobody who is competent has ever sent a business down. That's a lie. That's a purposeful lie as well. People are indoctrinated basically to think that all you need is to pull yourself by your bootstraps. That's not what it is at all. You can be super good and super competent and still fail a lot. And you can have the best intentions and the best work ethics and still fail, because a lot of it is luck for sure, but also it's knowing the system, how it works, and it is very tricky because nobody teaches you. Because the people who know the system are usually very rich and they don't want you to know the system, otherwise they become less rich. Also, there's other reasons. It's complicated. And also, I've never been to business school, so don't ask me for tips. I purposely don't try to be, quote, successful, unquote, because I would have to just not be who I am, honestly, in terms of business ventures like this, because, everybody can start a business like this. It's just... all I'm saying is I could have started a business, for example, at 1 or 2 times in my life, and I decided not to because, well, many reasons. Anyway, it's complicated. If you're gonna be a dice maker, by all means, please do. Please be, because it's awesome. That's the moral of the story at the end of the day. She says, or maybe it's the entire world that's cursed. It's just such a precarious place. Nothing ever works out the way you want it. That's why people like role-playing games. You can be whoever you want to be. You can try again. Still, there's something inherently violent, even about dice rolls. It's like every time... Well, it depends on your GM, come on. It's like every time you cast a die, something disappears. Some alternative ending, or an entirely different world. She picks up a pair of dice from the table and examines them under the light. But anyway, thanks for sharing your theories, officer. She gives you a tired smile. I got a new thought! The Precarious World. That's great. We're going to read The Precarious World in the next episode. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I don't know why, but this was a lucky one. This was a blessed episode for me, I think, because it all came back around. Sometimes it happens. Other times it really doesn't. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Colonel RPG. This has been Disco Elysium. I hope to see you next time. And if it isn't out yet, if it is out, you can click up here. You know how the thing shows up. But if it isn't out, you need to leave a like to make sure that it comes out sooner rather than later. Thank you so much for joining me once again. Bye-bye.